After an early helicopter ride from the Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center, Maduro and his deposed First Lady were escorted under heavy guard by Drug Enforcement Administration officials to their first court appearance in Manhattan for a 40-minute arraignment, where not guilty pleas on drugs and weapons charges were confirmed.
Donald Trump, you're a liar! No more wars, more empire!
Protesters split outside court, some calling for their immediate release and slamming the U.S. actions as unlawful overreach.
We're here for the arraignment to say, free Maduro, to say the U.S. has no right to be holding the President of Venezuela and his wife, Cilia Flores, in U.S. courts. The charges are lies, and they're actually cover for the real political agenda, which is regime change.
While others hailed the Trump administration for removing someone they viewed as a tyrant.
There is no going back. Nicolas Maduro today is going to be brought to justice after 14 years of running our country, after more than 20 years of a ruthless dictatorship. And it is time for freedom, it is time for democracy.
While proceedings played themselves out in court, a few kilometers up the road at the United Nations, an emergency session of the Security Council, where South Africa was also able to take the floor, citing the use of unlawful unilateral force by the United States.
The unilateral military strikes carried out by the United States of America against Venezuela and the abduction of President Nicolas Maduro and his spouse from Venezuelan territory for transfer to the United States wantonly violates the sovereignty and territorial integrity and independence of Venezuela. These actions are also in stark contrast to our established legal norms, reinforcing the belief that might is right and undermining diplomacy. History has repeatedly demonstrated that military invasions against sovereign states yield only instability and deepen crises.
UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, through his Under-Secretary General Rosemary DiCarlo, echoing those concerns.
I remain deeply concerned that rules of international law have not been respected with regard to the 3 January military action. The Charter enshrines the prohibition of the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. The maintenance of international peace and security depends on the continued commitment of all member states to adhere to all the provisions of the Charter.
The United States will not waver.
But the United States remained unmoved.
There is no war against Venezuela or its people. We are not occupying a country. This was a law enforcement operation in furtherance of lawful indictments that have existed for decades. The United States arrested a narco-trafficker who is now going to stand trial in the United States in accordance with the rule of law for the crimes he's committed against our people for 15 years.
Señor Presidente.
While Venezuela's envoy called for Maduro and his wife's immediate release and safe return home.
Venezuela es víctima de estos ataques por razón de sus riquezas naturales.
Venezuela is the victim of these attacks because of its natural resources. Our country's oil, energy, strategic resources, and geopolitical position have historically been factors of greed and external pressure. When force is used to control resources, impose governments, or redesign states, we are faced with a logic that harks back to the worst practices of colonialism and neocolonialism.
With Maduro's next court appearance now expected on March 17th, expect a prolonged legal fight to now begin to play itself out. No less a question about jurisdiction and whether he and Cilia Flores could be put on trial in the United States after what his defense attorney framed as a military abduction. As international law, the UN Charter and the sovereignty of member states appears increasingly fragile given the posture of some of the world's most powerful countries in recent years, and a Security Council hamstrung by its very makeup. Sherwin Bryceby's SABC News, New York.